Hello, and welcome back to the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host and subconscious reprogramming expert, Allison K. Dagny. Now, today we're going to be talking about how doing positive affirmations wrong is wasting your time. And this is really, really important because we're in the day and age where everybody's talking about affirmations and how they really can help you and change your mindset. And in some ways, that is true. But there is a missing piece that most people are unaware of. But because of the work that I do with the subconscious mind, I am here to share that secret with you. So I hope you'll stay tuned and listen in and take some notes because this one is going to be good. Now, something I want to tell you is this. I've always been a person who believes in the power of positivity. Ever since I was very young, I always tend to look on the bright side of things. I think this came from my parents, my upbringing, and probably part of how I was designed in my soul as a human being. So, when things would go wrong in my life, I would tend to always look for the silver lining. I was always thinking the glass was more half full versus half empty. And I think that is very helpful to creating a life of peace. However, people often get stuck when they try positive affirmations to help them feel better or to heal from emotional abuse. And that's because they're doing it wrong. And so today I want to explain this on a deeper level to help you so that you aren't misusing positive affirmations, because I have a very, very strong love for positivity, and I think it's very helpful for us, but it can often be a waste of time and energy if you're not doing it properly. So having a strong sense of self-belief can be something that a lot of people experience when it comes to positivity. Like if you really want, as a kid, like let's say as a kid, you really want to be able to I don't know, climb the rope in the gym, within record time or something like that. And you really believe in yourself and you really put forth the effort, right? You know you can do it. I know I'm strong enough, right? And you're putting in the practice and you're doing all the things, right? That's going to help you because you actually have a belief in yourself, a positive belief in yourself. And that's going to take you really, really far. And this goes for lots and lots of things. The issue becomes when people have negative self-talk or limiting beliefs about themselves that they're trying to shift by just using positive affirmations. And the reason why is because if you have these limiting beliefs running on autopilot that have been there for years and years, maybe since the day you were born, all the way up into adulthood, those things are extremely difficult to change because they are such ingrained habits of thought. So it's really important to speak the language of the subconscious mind, which is in images, stories, and analogies. So we're going to talk about that so that you can use positive affirmations to your greatest benefit. Because I've said this before, if you're just repeating something like a mantra over and over and over again, but you're not pairing it with emotion or experiences or proof and evidence in the form of stories or how like a movie would play out, then your brain can't really understand that fully and it won't get behind it. So it's better if you can do it in a way that will actually be impactful by speaking the language of the subconscious mind instead of just repeating words. So for instance, if you were saying to yourself, I am worthy, and you just say it to yourself every day in the mirror, you may experience some shifts. However, you're using the conscious part of your brain to tell yourself that you're worthy, right? All humans have worth, right? People in general are worthy, but that's a conscious brain activity, right? So if you're telling yourself every day when you wake up in the mirror, I am worthy, you may start to feel a little bit different. It might take a while, but what's really going to make the shifts and the changes is telling yourself you're worthy and specifically why. And that's where a lot of people get caught up because they think that just by saying it, they're going to feel it, and it just doesn't work like that. One thing I want to mention here is that your brain can't always tell the difference between reality and imagination. So if you are daydreaming about something, let's say something really positive, your brain doesn't know necessarily that that's not actually happening. Your brain is going to believe whatever you tell it and whatever you show it. It also stores your memories from the past. So if there are lots of stored memories about things that make you feel worthy, chances are you're going to address those things and you're going to see them more frequently and you're going to believe them, and your brain is going to believe it too. If you have more things that go against it or have you feeling low self-worth or that you aren't valuable, then your brain is going to go with that too. And again, whatever you're thinking about, even if you're tapping those old memories, right? Let's say you're tapping old memories that tell you you're not worthy, experiences that you had, the way your parents treated you, the way other people hurt you, that make you feel unworthy, then if you're recalling those things in a visual way, as far as like how the brain sees it, it sees it in stories and images, and that's how you're recalling and remembering it. It doesn't know that that's not real either. It can't even determine that that was in the past and not happening right now. So reliving these things in your current frame of mind, thinking about the past or worrying about the future, your brain doesn't know the timeline either. It thinks it's all happening now. So that's going to contribute to how you feel about yourself, and then obviously how you would show up in the world too. Now, I would like to say that, affirming yourself with positivity and, healthy self-talk, this can help you cope with a lot of things. It can help you deal with uncertainty and feel a little bit better about yourself, right, when you're doing this. And there's actually been studies that have proven that this helps you cope with these things. But I'm not really in the business of coping. Like, coping to me is a Band-Aid, and I don't want to be coping for the rest of my life. I want to have results, and if there's a way to get results, which there is, which is through the subconscious mind, then that's what I want. I don't want to Band-Aid for the rest of my life. So having thoughts of positivity is wonderful, and I think everybody should have thoughts of positivity. We also have to be careful not to gaslight ourselves. And if you're not familiar with what gaslighting is basically convincing yourself of an alternate reality and that you can't trust yourself. So we don't want to lie to ourselves and tell ourselves things that we want to have in our lives that maybe necessarily aren't true. And the reason why this is important is because if you are telling yourself a story that's not true just to kind of make yourself feel better, again, all you're doing is coping, right? So if let's say you had an experience and it was pretty traumatic, and now to try to cope with it and be more positive, you're telling yourself, oh, it wasn't that bad, or other people have it worse than me, right? That's what I'm talking about, like gaslighting yourself, right? That's what we don't want. We don't want that to happen, right? So when we're talking about ourselves and our worth and having a positive outlook, what we're not talking about is denying reality, okay? We're not trying to deny our reality. That's definitely not something that we would want to do, because that's going to keep us stuck in a state of unhealthy self-perception and could lead to all kinds of negative things like
Hey friend, I want to take a quick pause here because if you've been listening and realizing you're ready for real healing, not just tips, you need to know about my Radiate and Rise community. Inside the community, we meet 4 times a month for live 1-hour coaching calls that are fully focused on healing work. You can even get coached on your personal situation right there in the call when we have no cameras required, and you can even use a fake name if that feels safer to you. You will also get 4 healing activities every month that you can do at your own pace if you choose to, plus a private off Facebook space where you can connect with me and other survivors who truly understand what you're going through. Members even get bonuses, discounts, and freebies They get access to my emotional resonance library with powerful audio healing tracks and my full EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique tapping library, with 28 guided videos to help you calm your mind and release old emotions. All of this is just $44 a month, and you can cancel anytime, but the price does go up to $55 on December 1st. So if you've been thinking about getting real support before the new year, this is your moment. So just go to my website at www.radiatethenrise.com and you will find it there. Or you can tap the link in the show notes and come heal with us.
Holding on to emotions that really need to be felt, released, and dealt with. So that's why, it's got to be brought to the surface. You have to acknowledge the realities. And the more important piece to this is once you've acknowledged the realities, it's like, okay, well, what am I making that mean about me? That's the most important part, right? And that's where you can start to shift these things with positive affirmations, but using the positive affirmations in a way that actually works, right? So let's say that, for example, you were in a toxic relationship, a very abusive marriage, or had, maybe really abusive parents growing up or something like that. If that was your reality, then you may be going around telling yourself things like, I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough, or I'll never be able to do anything right. I'm such a klutz. I'm irresponsible, right? You may have these kinds of beliefs, right? So if you wanted to shift that, you could identify those things and then start to tell yourself something else. I'm smart. I'm responsible. I'm a good person, right? All these things are positive affirmations. The reason that doesn't work, to tell yourself to write it 15 times on a chalkboard or whatever you want to do, or look in the mirror and tell yourself, the reason it doesn't work is because your brain doesn't understand that. It understands all the other stuff that you've got circulating in your brain that's telling you the opposite story. That's what it's holding on to. It has the memory of when you were a little child and you did a little dance for your parents and they laughed, or they told you to give it up because you're not good enough, right? That's the memory that's creating the negative belief. So to combat that, you've got to have a memory or some proof and evidence that goes against that, that shows that, wait a minute, I am good enough. What about that time that when I was a kid that I did something in school and my whole entire class stood up and gave me a standing ovation, right? They loved it. They were super excited. You've got to find proof and evidence to combat the things that are supporting the negative beliefs, right? That's why positive affirmations don't work for people, because they don't know how to use it. If you just keep telling yourself the same positive things over and over and over again, you might actually start to feel it. But at some point, it's just going to keep reverting back, because the 95% of your subconscious mind that's in control is actually inundated with examples that are telling you you're not good enough, or that you'll never be enough, or that you can't do anything right, or that you're irresponsible or stupid, or whatever, any of those negative things that's going on inside of your subconscious mind. So, it really helps to look at those old stories that keep reinforcing those old belief patterns and affirmations, because that's what they are. They're just negative affirmations about yourself. You're just repeating negative affirmations. And because of those stories that are creating those negative affirmations from your past, then you're trying to combat it. But you're basically trying to combat it. Like, let's say that you were, you're fighting a battle and you have your weapon, but you don't have ammunition. It's not going to do you any good, right? You need to fight fire with fire. You need to fight the same way. We're fighting these negative beliefs the same way how do I say this? We're fighting the negative belief systems that you have that are paired with these memories, using positive belief systems that are paired with positive memories. And then now you might be going, well, wait a minute, I don't have any positive memories. I don't have anything positive. I'm here to tell you, yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. They're just buried, because all that other junk is in the way. So that's where I help my clients. I'll say, well, what about at work? What about when you were a kid? What about at school? What about on the sports team that you were on? What about your grandma or your aunt who took care of you? What about the neighbor who praised you? What about, right? There's so many things that we forget about because all that other stuff has so much heavy weight to it. When we can uncover the things that are creating these negative beliefs, like those are pretty easy to find. Then what we can do is say, okay, we actually have to put some effort in. We have to put some effort and work into shifting this. Now, I do want to address something called cognitive dissonance. And if you've not heard of cognitive dissonance, I'll give you my best explanation about this. It's where you have this like inconsistent thoughts and beliefs and attitudes related to your decisions that you have about your behavior and like attitude change. So for example, some people may have a really, really strong belief about something, and then when they're presented with evidence that actually works against that belief, or that's like, oh, what about this possibility or that possibility, then it's really hard for them to accept this new evidence. And this can create this feeling, that really uncomfortable feeling called cognitive dissonance. And it would be sort of like if you said, like, I'll make this simple, lying is wrong and lying is bad, and only bad people lie, and then you lied. So now you're working with cognitive dissonance because you're like, oh wait, my behaviors are going against these core belief systems that I have. And that creates a lot of confusion and a lot of psychological stress inside of you. And so that's why when we're talking about positive mindsets and positive affirmations and things like that, cognitive dissonance can actually come up for people a lot because it feels like, oh wait, I've got this really strong belief about something, like I'm not good enough, and now I'm trying to look at this evidence that I am good enough, and that can be confusing. And oftentimes this is not for positivity necessarily, but happens in more negative types of things, like that are shameful or things that might not feel good to you, and that's why it creates that uncomfortable feeling inside. An example of this would be like if you were really trying to get healthy, and you feel like that's really important, and you know that being healthy is important, but you don't exercise regularly, or you don't eat well. You eat junk food, or smoke cigarettes or something that you want to be healthy, but your behaviors aren't showing that. And what happens is you introduce guilt or shame as a response to that. So you're doing it anyway. And that is sort of an example of cognitive dissonance. So this is really important to know, because when you're using positive affirmations and they are inconsistent with your personal existing beliefs or the way that you think about yourself or your perception of yourself, then that's when cognitive dissonance can come up and then start to counteract the effectiveness of these affirmations. So they often start, like positive affirmations often start with statements about your own capabilities, your own self-worth, or your own abilities or potentials. And if these kinds of affirmations go against your deep-seated beliefs or self-doubt that you hold about yourself, then that's when cognitive dissonance comes up. So, for example, if somebody has really low self-esteem and they repeat affirmations like I'm confident and I'm worthy, the conflict with their existing belief, which is I'm not worthy, this creates a lot of discomfort. So that's why when I work with my clients, we start off very small. Like, we don't try to shift this stuff like big stuff. We start with pet peeves. Like, we start with things that are really kind of insignificant, that are just like irritable or annoying kinds of things. And then we work our way up, because if we don't, and we try to dive in the deep end and we don't know how to swim, guess what? Cognitive dissonance, discomfort, uncomfortableness, and the brain resists. So the other thing is that positive affirmations, often they imply this desire for change or improvement, right? Because that's what you're thinking about is I want to feel better about myself, or I want to behave differently or change something. So if your past behaviors or your past experiences don't really align with these new affirmations that you're repeating, again, you're going to experience this dissonance. So if somebody's trying to quit smoking and they say, I am a non-smoker, right? But they continue to smoke, there's a huge inconsistency here between the affirmation and the behavior. And that's going to be like really icky. Like it does not feel right at all. It causes a lot of uncomfortable feelings inside. Because again, it's like you're trying to gaslight yourself. I'm a non-smoker. No, I am a smoker, right? That's the reality. So that's why even just a positive affirmation like that is not going to work. It's not about, right? This is the thing. It's not about saying, if you're trying to quit, that I am a non-smoker is not the right way to do that. It's what do I believe about my ability? I can't do it. I'm incapable of quitting. I'm not consistent. I'll never do anything that's difficult, or I've never been able to do anything. That is the stuff that we need to shift, right? Not the reality. We're not shifting I am a non-smoker to a positive affirmation, right? That, oh, I am now all of a sudden am going to try to shift my reality. No, it's the meaning. It's what's deeper. It's on a different level. And that's, again, why positive affirmations don't work, because people are trying to shift their realities, which is giving them feelings of like self-gaslighting and cognitive dissonance. So if the positive affirmations that you're using are unrealistic or unbelievable to yourself, this is going to happen every time. So it's not about changing the belief to something that is unbelievable. It's about looking at other possibilities. So if somebody really believes that they're unattractive and they're constantly repeating, I'm incredibly attractive, or I am so attractive, there's going to be, again, this contradiction between what they've believed for their whole life and this new affirmation that they're trying to create. It's not, again, it's not about that I am attractive or I'm unattractive. It's about what you're making it mean, right? And a lot of people believe that I'm unattractive and that means nobody's going to love me. That means I'm going to be by myself forever. It means I'm never going to have a happy relationship. So it's never the surfacey thing that you think it is. It's always a deeper level. There are some defense mechanisms that come up when we experience cognitive dissonance, this resistance, okay? And we do this to reduce the discomfort, right? Because it's highly uncomfortable. And you can reject these types of positive thoughts and rationalize your existing beliefs. And that's part, again, of the conscious brain stepping in to try to help out. So if you are rejecting these ideas that you are good enough, your rationalization is going to go back and pull out evidence that you're not. It's going to say, yeah, but remember that one time that you messed up, and oh, and remember that one time, and oh yeah, but what about that example of when you failed at this or that, or you got fired from your job, right? All these things are just going to keep resurfacing. And that's because cognitive dissonance is triggered and your brain is trying to keep you feeling safe and comfortable. So they will prevent any sort of positivity of, especially affirmations, from getting into your subconscious mind effectively. So that's why it's so critical to work with what has the greatest power, which is that 95% in your subconscious mind. So making your positive affirmations more effective starts with one, very simple, believable, and realistic types of things. Like, okay, well, how about if I believe consistently that I am stupid? I'm so stupid, or I was so stupid, or whatever, right? Let's just say, let's go back to an example that I used to have for myself when I escaped my emotionally abusive relationship that I was in for 20 years. I was beating myself up constantly because I was saying I was so stupid. How could I be so stupid? Why didn't I see the signs? Why didn't I see the red flags, right? So this was a deep groove that I had created inside my brain saying that I was stupid. Well, if all of a sudden I'm going to try to say I am so unbelievably intelligent, my brain's going to immediately resist that. It's going to say, no, you're not. Okay, so what you do is you start with something a little bit more gradual. Like, well, in what ways was I not stupid? Okay, well, what parts of my life was I not dumb, you know? And then you start picking out a few things here and there and you start saying, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I really wasn't stupid because I was tricked. I was fooled like highly by a master manipulator, right? That doesn't make me stupid. That just makes me tricked, right? That just means the other person was very, very skilled at pulling this big magic trick on me. Okay. I wouldn't call somebody stupid who was in awe of a magician. I wouldn't say they're stupid or gullible. I would say, especially like think about like a child, like they don't know. I didn't know. How would I know? I never knew anything about narcissism. I never knew anything about emotional abuse. I only knew about verbal abuse, and my ex never verbally abused me. He never called me a bad name ever one time. So he never hit me either. So I didn't even know emotional abuse was a thing. Okay. I had to be told this by a stranger on the internet. So again, use something gradual. Start with something small to make that little shift for yourself, right? We're not going to try to go from, you know, something very, very major about what you believe about yourself and try to shift it overnight. That's just not going to work. And again, when you're using these kinds of positive affirmations, it's going to be important to speak the language of the subconscious mind. Speak in terms of stories, examples, details, emotion, images, not just words. Words is like a foreign language to the subconscious mind, and it's not going to work. So if it helps you, think of the subconscious mind and the communication of how you need to communicate with your subconscious mind like planting seeds. So positive affirmations are like scattering seeds on dry ground without tilling the soil, without preparing it to make sure that it has the proper nutrients. In contrast, right, if you nurture the soil, you prepare it, you put the seeds to the depth that they need to be, you water it, make sure it has enough sunlight, right? Fertile soil, allowing all the seeds to grow and flourish, that's going to make a difference, okay? That's what it's like speaking to the subconscious mind versus using the conscious mind and just like taking a pack of seeds and throwing it on dry, cracked soil and hoping something grows. It's not going to happen. So think of your mind in this way. Use the power of the 95%. That power is so helpful. This is going to help you grow emotionally. This is going to help you make emotional shifts. This is going to help you in so many ways, aside from just writing out positive affirmations in your journal every day or looking in the mirror and telling yourself that you're amazing and wonderful when you truly don't believe it, because then you're going to be doing that self-gaslighting, and that cognitive dissonance is going to rear its ugly head and it's going to fail. Again, you can't change something long-term permanently with a band-aid or coping, right? And that's what this is. So I don't ever want anybody to get confused and think that I don't like positivity, because like I said before, I am a very positive person and I'm always looking for positive things. I'm always looking. Here's the thing. When you become positive, all you're doing is looking for new possibilities. That's all people who have a positive attitude, that's all they do. They just see other possibilities. The people who are black and white often are the people who struggle the most because they can't see any other possibility, right? Like the other day, I was walking down the street and I caught myself irritated because my neighbors had really high grass and a lot of dog poop in their yard. And I was like, okay, I found it like it sort of inserted itself. I was like, ugh, like I could feel that like angst, like they shouldn't have their grass like this. They should keep better care of their yards. And then I started to shift and I started to say, well, what are some other possibilities? Do they possibly have, difficulty keeping up with it because maybe somebody's lost their job, or maybe they're trying to work more, or, who knows? I don't know, right? I don't know. But me believing that they should do something that they're not doing is only keeping me stressed out or me in pain every time I walk by. And it just so happened that a few days later, and I had already released it and I wasn't like stressed over it or angry or irritated, I noticed a school bus and their disabled child got off the school bus and in a wheelchair, and the dad came out and he got him off the bus and he brought him inside. And I knew at that moment why they don't take care of their yard. They have a child with special needs. They probably only get to it whenever they can. And to me, I was so glad that I hadn't let that bother me and irritate me, that I had already released it, because there was a reason. There was a good reason, right? And there's not always a good reason. And there's not always, we're not talking about enabling people or excusing bad behavior or anything like that. But this is about what you feel inside. This is about you having peace, right? So other people are always going to be them. They're always going to go about themselves being who they are and do what they do. It's going to be about how you perceive it. And are you willing to look at other possibilities? Are you willing to see things in a different light? Even if that's not even true, like you could just be thinking of other things that could possibly be true, you're going to be a happier person than somebody who says, absolutely not, this is the way it should be, this is the only way. Because guess what? It's not. It's not the only way. There's billions of people on this planet and everybody does things differently. And if you believe they should be doing it your way and they're not, you're going to be upset. You are, inside. So, again, just as a recap here, positive affirmations don't work if you're not speaking the language of the subconscious mind. They don't work if you have cognitive dissonance and you're not doing this gradually and easing your way into it and trying to shift these major things that you truly don't even believe, right? It has to be believable. It has to be something like, okay, I could maybe get behind that. Okay, so all you have to do is, one, be aware. Be aware of the things that you say to yourself, how you talk about yourself. Think about the examples that you're giving yourself that are, nurturing these negative beliefs. And then start to consider other possibilities, and then to shift those into positive affirmations. Pull examples from your life, from any aspect of your life that you can. And if you struggle with this and you want my help one-on-one, just reach out to me, because I'm really, really good at this. I'm really skilled. I've got lots and lots and lots of clients. I deal with this stuff all the time. And I help people make these shifts. And it's life-changing. So if you need my help, you know how to reach me. You can schedule a free call from the link in my show notes, or you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to chat with you. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.